So this is code that writes code. This is apparently similar to Copilot in that your generative, it's gen text, but for a language. In this case, it's gen text for Python. So you could write really precise Python through this API, and I'm guessing you have a prompt, yeah. So here's a sample data frame. I like to add inverses to each existing column in the data frame and name them based on existing column names of the prefix or the prefix inv underscore a is an inverse of column A and so on. It gives some of the like just what it would sound like and then more input. This is like a suggestion box of a problem. Here's code context. Okay, so this prompt goes through GPT-3. You place insert in the code context with the following predicted code snippet. Here, execute to evaluate. Okay, and then was this what you wanted or not? I wonder with like generative code. I mean, it has all the cultural and ethical questions that gen art and any gen tech stuff has. And I say on this channel all the time when we cover anything related to the world of generative AI or generative models, the technology is fantastic and it's pretty incredible how much we can push the envelope in this generative space. I've tried my hand at generative art and it's extremely difficult. We've done a bunch of different gen art on this stream. We've done gen text on this stream. All of it is pretty difficult. Right? Just like the basic getting started from scratch, doing any of that stuff. It's fairly difficult. A model being able to do something that truly takes a ton of time and synthesizes that down into something small, like this power, this ability to be used as a tool can help so many different, worlds, right? Like the learning of code becomes a little easier if you have something that's interactive that gives you code and feedback back. Like it's great. The applications are not just like fun art that's funny, but now actually solving probably a bunch of different problems if we let it. The technology, as I said, amazing. The people who want to abuse the technology, that's where it gets fucked, right? Like there's nothing wrong with the idea of cryptocurrency or blockchain technology, but there is a problem with people who exploit the technologies of crypto and exploit the technologies of blockchain technology. Those kinds of people suck. Those people are making things that are cool tech shamed and punished in the public world because there are some assholes out there who found exploitative methods with these tools, right? And so that really sucks for the people who are investing cool pro-social efforts into any of this tech. We're getting to a point where if you say you dabble in gen art or gen text, people who create arts, people who create works of literary shit that we would train in our gigantic models, they now have a bone to pick with people who train these models, right? That no one got to opt into being a part of it. And therefore, when you type up a prompt that says like, draw me like a new Picasso, it can get you a brand new Picasso you've never seen before in Picasso's style, but Picasso never opted into that, right? And so perhaps you would piss Picasso off if Picasso didn't want to be in on it, right? And that's what's happening with modern arts today. A lot of comic book artists that I see are really pissed that you could type in famous comic book art styles and create generative art and ultimately try to pass it off as like either the artist who you're ripping off and rip someone else off because you've basically deep faked a work of art for them, or you're trying to pass it off as something that you were doing yourself. But perhaps the person you're working with is thinking that you're actually hand drawing something as opposed to generative art, and then you're trying to like style transfer as accurately as possible, right? It's kind of crazy that there hasn't been any major lawsuits. Not yet. You will hear of them soon, I'm sure. Because this is seeming like a very cool piece of technology that has nothing but like research and test cases for the things that it creates. It's code writing code, right? We're talking about that step before like we are afraid that we're going to automate our jobs away. It's the ability for code to write new code, right? The ability for code to analyze what's happening with itself and then write new code and then implement that into like a QA and then a prod process. Like we're talking about code, a self-perpetuating code. You just need to hit run and the wheel of coding begins to turn, you know? We're headed that way. Like when you're able to type in prompt and not just like a function, right? Like in Colab or in Copilot, you're just typing code still, and it auto completes code for you. Or in reality, that's just seeding generative text model, right? So this is also seeding a gen text model, but it does it in a conversational way, not in a strictly Python or strictly coding language way. So you write out a prompt for it to solve, and it solves it. This becomes even more accessible to people who want to write code without knowing how to code at all. This is also accessible to people who want to write packages without having to write a package at all, without having to write any functions at all. So ultimately, if you're auto-completing certain functions in a prompt way, like if you're just speaking aloud, like, yeah, I want an API that calls in League of Legends data, and then I want a pandas data frame to be flat and flatten all the XYZT data from the League of Legends matches, and that way I have positioning by time all in one data frame, along with kills and damage, and deaths and assists and items used and blah blah blah. If you could just say it all aloud and it produces code, and then you end up marketing that as like a hey, if you want the pro version of this, you can put in your own ID and it will get you back all these models that will tell you how good you are. It will create a dashboard for you, and you could like analyze your past game performances. If you put something behind a paywall and you've created all this code just like conversationally talking about it, like whose code did you actually take, right? Like it could be a completely new package, but the code had to be learned, had to be trained by other people's code, right? That is very impressive though. It is. And I hope the technology continues to be developed. But I fear that there's going to be backlash once there's a nefarious user out there. I would love to see this technology just pushed through to the fullest extent. But yeah, that's gonna come with some people who probably really don't want to be a part of all of this stuff. Most likely. But this is great tech.